My aunt looked me dead in the eye, right there in the funeral home lobby, and said, "If you walk up to that podium, you are no longer part of this family." And I walked up anyway. So, am I the problem here? Okay, let me back up because that moment doesn't make sense without the 15 years that led to it. My grandmother, I called her Nana Jones, died 6 weeks ago. She was 81, sharp as a tack until the very end, and she was, without question, the person in my family who actually saw me. Not the version of me my mother wanted. Not the version my aunt approved of. Me? She came to my college graduation when my mom didn't. She called every Sunday. She kept a photo of my ex-girlfriend on her refrigerator for 3 years because she said, and I quote, "She has kind eyes and I like her." That was my Nana Jones. So when she passed, I wanted to speak at her funeral. I asked. I asked the right way, through the right people with enough notice. My Aunt Renata is the one who coordinates everything in our family, always has been. She runs the holidays, she runs the funerals, she basically runs the narrative. I called her 2 days after my grandmother died and I said, "I'd really like to say something at the service." She said she'd look into it. That was the last real answer I got. For the next 4 days, I got nothing. No call back, no text, just silence. So I texted Renata directly. "Hey, just checking in on the program. Did you figure out if there's space for me to speak?" She replied, and I have this saved. She replied, "We're keeping it intimate, just immediate family." I am immediate family. Nana Bet was my mother's mother. I said that, word for word. Renata, Nana Jones, was my grandmother too. And Renata said, again, I have this. "We feel it's best if the service stays focused." Stays focused, like I was a distraction. Like whatever I might say about my own grandmother was somehow off message. And here's the part that made my stomach drop. I found out from my cousin Delia, who was not supposed to tell me, that the program was already printed. My name was not on it. My mother's name was on it. Two of Renata's daughters were on it. My uncle, who flew in from out of state and hadn't seen Nana Bet in 4 years, his name was on it. My name was not. I called my mom. I said, "Did you know about this?" She got quiet in that way she gets, that practice quiet, and then she said, "Honey, I just think it's easier if we don't make a scene." Make a scene? At my grandmother's funeral, by speaking about her. I said, "Mom, what did I do?" And she said, "You know what you did." I genuinely do not know what I did. Or maybe I do, and I think it's unfair. Probably the second one. So here's where I become the complicated one. The morning of the funeral, I wrote a eulogy anyway. 4 pages. I practiced it in my bathroom mirror at 6 in the morning in my funeral dress, crying twice, getting through it. I drove to the service and I did not tell anyone what I was planning. I sat in the third row. I listened to my uncle stumble through a 3-minute speech about my grandmother's cooking, a woman who famously hated cooking and always said her superpower was ordering from good restaurants. I watched Renata's eldest daughter read a poem that Nana Jones would have found aggressively boring. And then the funeral director said, "Is there anyone else who'd like to share a memory?" That's when Renata stood up from the front row and turned around to look at me. She knew. Somehow she knew, and she said quietly but clearly enough for the row between us to hear, "Don't." And I stood up. I walked to the podium. I talked about my grandmother for 7 minutes. I talked about the Sunday calls and the refrigerator photo, and the time she drove 4 hours in the rain to sit with me after a breakup and didn't ask a single question, just made tea and watched bad television. I talked about Nana Jones's actual laugh, the one she only did when something really got her, this honking, helpless laugh that she was always embarrassed by. I could see people in the pews were smiling. A few were crying, it was real. And when I sat back down, Renata didn't look at me once. My mother stared at her own hands. After the service in the lobby, that's when Renata delivered her verdict. "You just made her funeral about yourself." My cousin Delia, the one who tipped me off, later texted me that it was the most meaningful part of the service. But she also said, "You have to understand, you crossed a line they won't forget." And I keep turning that over. Did I hijack a grieving family's carefully planned service because I couldn't accept being left out? Or did I just refuse to let the person who loved me most get eulogized by people who had a version of her that wasn't really her? Both things feel true at the same time, and I don't know what to do with that. A few weeks later, Nana Jones's estate lawyer called to read a portion of her will. She had left me her writing desk, the one she kept her letters in, and a handwritten note that said, "You always said the true thing, keep doing that." Renata did not acknowledge this. My mother said it made sense because I was always Nana Jones's favorite, and the way she said it was not a compliment. Things with my family are quiet now, not resolved, quiet. The kind of quiet that means everyone is waiting for me to apologize first. I'm not sure I can, I'm not sure I should, but I also can't fully shake the image of Renata's face when I walked past her to that podium, and I don't know if what I felt in that moment was righteous or just stubborn. So honestly, was I wrong? Did I take something that wasn't mine to take, even if it was about someone who was mine to love? Honestly, though, what would you have done? Comment below.